This is Third Paradigm, and I'm Teresa Carraggio. My title today is Revolutionary Mystics and How to Become One. And that play on words is intentional. This is from the title of a book that I was writing in 2005. And at that time, I was working very closely with this small group of Bible scholars who were studying the Gnostic Gospel of Philip. And I will show you some of the resources that I have from that time. This is the Complete Gospels. This is the Other Gospel, the Other Bible. This is the Nag Hammadi Scriptures. This is the Nag Hammadi Library. This is the Gnostic Scriptures. And this is the Gnostic Bible. So as you can see, there are a lot of scriptures that we are not paying attention to. And in this book, what I did was take one passage of the Gospel of Philip and then correlate it with something from A Course in Miracles and also the Tao Te Ching, and then I would take a mystical poem from East or West, and I would tie that in and then write an essay that pulled all that together. I'll also be adding a passage from the Isha Upanishad, thanks to Neferhotep. He and I are starting a very exciting project looking at Eastern mystical scriptures, which he has a lot of knowledge about. So the reason that I was so interested in particular in the Gnostic Gospel of Philip is because I think it has a completely different perspective from what we have now in what we call Christianity. And I don't think that was the original Christianity or the original Judaism. Something I learned from Max Egan this week was that the word Jew doesn't actually appear anywhere in the Hebrew Bible, that it was an invention, and I think an invention by Josephus, who also wrote, along with War of the Jews, I believe, the Gospels. And so he turned that into a name for the zealots, who he hated and loathed. So if I look at the zealots as being these revolutionaries against the empire led by Judas the Sicariot, who was also known as the Messiah, the Christ, the Galilean, the healer, if I look at Jews as being followers of Judas, it makes much more sense why he would be talking about them in that way, and that the original Christians may have been those followers of Judas. So I think that this Gospel of Philip has that intimation of there being all one, that is the same thing that's in A Course in Miracles and is the same thing in other ancient scriptures. And that was what drew my particular attention to it. I'll start by reading a poem that I wrote called Current Mystics, Mystic Currents. A mystic is a cartographer, mapping the ocean floor from the surface ripples. We are all born prophets. To see the future is no more than seeing the present clearly. Expect prophecy within your own home. Listen closer. A moment lived in the awareness of death is a speck of infinity exploding. The answer to the conundrum, to be fully human is to be fully divine. From the Gnostic Gospel of Philip, Passage 1. A Hebrew makes another Hebrew, and such a person is called a proselyte. But someone who calls another does not make them the same as they are. We are who we have always been. One who knows themselves calls others to become who they truly are. From A Course in Miracles. The miracle but calls your ancient name, which you will recognize because the truth is in your memory. From the Tao 14. Just realize where you came from. This is the essence of wisdom. From the Isha Upanishad 7. He in whom it is the self-being that has become all existences that are becomings. For he has the perfect knowledge. How shall he be deluded? Whence shall he have grief who sees everywhere oneness? And this is from a poem by May Sarton. Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places. I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces, run madly as if time were there, terribly old, crying a warning. Hurry, you will be dead before, what? Before you reach the morning? Or the end of the poem is clear? Or love safe in the walled city? Now to stand still, to be here, feel my own weight and density. Now there is time and time is young. Oh, in this single hour I live, all of myself, and do not move. I, the pursued, who madly ran, stand still, and stop the sun. And my essay is entitled Coming Into Your Own. The introductory passage of the Gnostic Gospel of Philip denies that Christianity is a new religion, or even a new version of the Hebrew religion. Instead, it's a paradigm shift that applies to all religions and all people. If I am a Buddhist, authentic being will engender me a better Buddhist. If I am a Hindu, authentic being will engender me as a better Hindu. If I am a Muslim, authentic being will engender me as a better Muslim. According to Philip, to be a Christian is to help others become who they are. It doesn't try to make others like you. It waters the plant, trusting always that the seed is perfectly good as it is. This is a different understanding from the patriarchal Roman Church, who developed the religion that would come to be called Christianity and destroyed all other evidence. To Philip, Christianity could not exist as a separate thing. It's a verb that activates the noun without modifying it, the becoming that doesn't want to change you except to be more fully who you are. The word proselyte comes from the Greek proselytos, one who has come over to a place, literally having arrived, newly arrived or newcomer. Philip is saying that a Hebrew convert simply makes another Hebrew, which is a lateral shift in that person from one place to another. That person becomes something that is predefined. But the one who knows himself quickens the latent potential in the other simply by being the person they are. Philip's converter is a catalyst, a change agent who unleashes the dormant power in a chemical reaction. They accelerate the process, but the unique properties were in the chemicals to begin with. Something new happens to both in the synthesis. There is no teacher and student, because the one who is newly awakened, rather than newly arrived, is as much the teacher of the teacher. In modern Christian terms, someone who actively converts another is called an evangelist. Evangelist comes from bringer of good news. This good news historically also meant taking over the land, the resources, the control of labor, and the indoctrination of the children. As John Isbister writes in Promises Not Kept, the soldiers were followed soon after by the friars, whose sacred mission it was to salvage souls, and who succeeded at the expense of wiping out whole cultures. It would be hard to say whether the soldiers or the priests were more destructive. Together in their search for wealth, hegemony, and spiritual conversion, they dominated a continent, destroying millions of lives and subjecting the survivors to servitude. Philip's evangelist, however, brings the good news that the person we need to be is who we've always been. Who the other needs to be is who they've always been. We don't need to change who we are, but who we are for, which is inclusively each other. The word convert, however, comes from con, intensive, and vertere, to turn. It's an intensive turn, 180 shift in direction. It changes your whole purpose in life, not the means by which you accomplish your purpose. For Philip, someone who calls another does not make them the same as they are. The one who calls turns the person around on the same path they were traveling, but with a new destination. The path is the means by which they were traveling, whether a religion or a science or art. But the destination is either the independent ego or the inclusive self. A hospice chaplain told me that there were no good religions and bad religions. There were only good and bad forms of each religion. What was exclusive was bad, and what was inclusive was good. This could be pictured as the spokes of a wheel. In our concept, religions are competing for the conversion of souls, based on whether they give the optimal advantage in the afterlife. We're looking for the quickest path to enlightenment, the one that places the most distance between us and the muddled masses. We're facing outward on our spoke of the wheel and running on it as fast as we can. Perhaps the Holy Spirit is a centrifugal force which keeps us from making any progress when we're running away from each other, the holy thwarter. The one who calls turns us around to move towards one another. It doesn't matter which path or spoke we're on, and which path or spoke they're on. It doesn't matter which vocabulary we use when we call, the vocabulary of a particular religion or science or philosophy or art or agriculture or metalworking or haircutting or garbage collection. They're all equally good. We can hear the person call because they're facing us. We can't see them when we're facing out. When we turn, we also become one who calls from our unique but equally essential spoke on the wheel. This form of Christianity isn't a religion. It's a change of heart, a change of mind, which requires no change of affiliation. We don't have to convert in order to be a good Christian. We can be Christian through the religion we were born into or that we choose. Conversely, we can call ourselves Christian and still not become who we are, especially if we think that being Christian means we've already arrived. A process of becoming is never static, can't be fixed for all people and times as dogma, and is never accomplished. We stop being Christians the moment we stop asking questions and think we know the answers. Blessed are the seekers doesn't imply for someday they'll be saved like us. We are who we've always been has a hidden meaning. There are no newcomers. This definition gives no superiority to those who were already there. How can you come as a stranger to your own family? How can you be a recent arrival to your own home? Status based on seniority and lineage was critically important in ancient Rome and for the biblical Hebrews. Philip sidesteps the whole discussion of hierarchy by making conversion an internal process of becoming who you've always been. Authenticity isn't tracing your family tree back 10 generations. The future becomes the coin of authenticity as it mines the legacy of a shared tradition. We reclaim our heritage with each successive generation. Instead of more heirs diluting the inheritance, each addition enriches the ore because what's added is equally pure and precious. The more that inherit their own authentic being, the greater the inheritance for all. The more hands that knowledge passes through, the more valuable it becomes to each. Why did Philip choose to lead with this passage? In Philip, Christianity is firmly rooted in mystical Judaism, rather than the hierarchical, priestly Judaism of the Torah. Philip's starting line is a radical statement of equality. None of us is better than another by our nature or by our birth, but we all have equal potential to be ourself. The only difference between us is how true we're being to our own nature, and I would add, that's a temporary thing. Do we engender others to be true to themselves by our example of being true to ourself? Do we demonstrate the pleasure of a life that gives back to others? When we recognize our ancient name, do we call others by it? Or do we want to believe it's ours alone? Philip calls us to step up to our true glory, but doesn't leave room on the pedestal for a single exception for who belongs there with us. A church or religion, in its true sense, is a community with the intent to help each other walk in a forward direction, one hesitant step at a time. No one's arrived, nor is anyone going backwards, but we all can use each other's help. The road to heaven is paved with good intentions. I'll be continuing with this project, and I am very excited for the joint project with Neferhotep on Eastern mystical scriptures. In the meantime, if you'd like to hear that same poem with lots of new material, it's in Mysticism and Economics, and this is And the Flesh Was Made Word. Thank you for watching.